Hello?
Hello, Jughead. This is Archie. Come over right away. It's a matter of life or death.
Oh, relax, Archie.
Attention, all true believers. Marvel Comics is on the air.
The friend of the unfortunate, enemy of criminals. In reality, Dan Garrett, a rookie patrolman, loved by everyone but suspected by none of being the Blue Beetle.
Boys and girls, your attention, please. Presenting a new exciting radio program featuring the thrilling adventures of an amazing and incredible personality. Faster than an airplane, more powerful than a locomotive, impervious to bullets.
Up in the sky, look!
It's a bird, it's a plane, it's Superman!
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Hey, what is up, everybody? It is Christopher, aka the Bronze Age Nerd, and I am joined by
Bigby McFly, the comic guy.
And we are here for another exciting entry into the Best Coast Comics. It's been a weekend, and we are going to talk about how this weekend went for the first part of this show. Before I get too far into things, I just want to remind everybody we are streaming on a couple different places. We're streaming on the Bronze Age Nerd YouTube channel. We're streaming on Bigby McFly, the Comic Book Guys channel. Those links are in the description below, but we're both also streaming to the EXP, which is an awesome comic book video network. You got all kinds of sales shows, all kinds of cool content, like the content you're watching right now. So if you like this kind of content, maybe want to go over there and subscribe. That link is in the description below as well. We also are going to have an awesome guest on the show a little bit later after we talk about some of the Heroes4Heroes stuff that we need to update you about, Madam Blaster. So we're really excited about talking to her. She's an awesome member of the community. We're going to tackle news, all that kind of fun stuff. But before we start talking about Heroes4Heroes, as always, we're going to say hi to everybody who joined into the show early and check in with chat. So first off, almost always, in fact, unless things are really hinky, he is always first.
Richard and he are getting in a duel lately. So.
Yeah, Richard's pulling up a solid silver medal in terms of being in the stream early. In terms of helping out with Heroes4Heroes, he's pulling a gold medal.
Yeah, for sure.
And we have Richard in there, of course, and then Christina, who also, speaking of pulling it out for Heroes4Heroes, she did an awesome, pretty much like all day, kind of all-nighter for an East Coast person over there. So she did awesome.
Yeah.
And then we got Buddy, another person who was there on Saturday for the big event for Heroes4Heroes, as well as being a veteran. So we always want to thank our veterans. And hey, Igor, another person. Hey, what do you know? Another person that was big. And Jay Smooth. Hey, we got lots of people coming in that were here Saturday. The Heroes4Hire Comic Book Club. Welcome. Yeah, they need more. I look a little different. My little camera, that was apparently the battery was dead, and I threw on my tiny little webcam that you saw me on Saturday. So I know I look a little bit different. I messed with Bigby's webcam as well, and it probably looks a little different because he had to set it back up on his computer. But yeah, regardless of how we look, we're here. Dang it! So how you doing, Bigby?
It's been a rough day. I may need to change my color. I am really warm. They've been giving me hours at work, but most of it is not the normal stuff. I'm outside in the freezing cold rain, scrubbing and doing manual labor instead of driving my truck. So,
dang it!
I'm feeling a little under the weather today.
I can imagine, because honestly, I think it wasn't until about halfway through today that I started to feel a little bit more back to normal, and I use that term kind of loosely.
Weird, like all day Sunday. I was like, oh.
Yeah, well, and shout out to one of the other heroes from Saturday's Heroes4Heroes event, which is Bigby's new chair he supplied me with. Because if it hadn't been for that thing, I think I would have been hurting big time.
The Bronze Throne.
What's up, X, SSFE, LT, another awesome supporter from Heroes4Heroes coming in here. Hey, Vogs, what's up, man? I don't see you here too often. You're very welcome. Thanks for stopping by. So I want to update everybody about Heroes for Heroes before we welcome in our awesome guest, Madam Blaster. So the first thing we've been doing for all the shows leading up to Heroes for Heroes was giving an update. We are going to give another update here. This probably kind of the final like actual donation total update. So here's the big news. Well, actually, this is the second biggest piece of news I have tonight. First big piece of news is we are at 104% of our goal. We're at $82.94. So our goal was $8,000 this year, and we have crept past that. I know for a fact there's at least another like $225 donation that's going to go through on top of that. So we're going to finish closer to 8,600 probably is my guess. Besides other donations people just decide to make as they kind of follow along, which, you know, those might trickle in. Those are always welcome, of course. So
some behind the scenes news that we may finish much higher than that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'll let you know when I get more info, but it could be much better.
Oh, is it about that one thing that I helped you out with at one point?
Yeah, I think so.
Ooh, that would be very welcome news. So huge shout out to the community who, you know, a lot of you are in the chat right now. You guys showed up. It was kind of slightly demoralizing because technically the counter at the end of the stream, we knew there were donations that still had to go through, but we were like at 97% of our goal. And it just kind of felt wrong to quit, you know, the stream with so basically we streamed for 11 hours, 11 and some change.
Yeah, almost 12.
Yeah. And then we spent about 2.5 hours breaking down and kind of organizing how shipping was going to go. So 104%, $82.94. I know for a fact there's going to be at least a few $100 more added onto this, possibly more. So that is, you know, community, you showed up. This is a lot of people's hard work because they're the ones that are sending in these items that we auctioned off. They made donations just because they wanted to support artists or because they wanted to support us, or hopefully the reason everybody donated is because they want to support veterans. And that's extremely important. Mission 22, I haven't talked to them yet. I've been in contact with them all along. So I kind of wanted to wait until we were well past the goal to reach out, but I'm sure they're going to be ecstatic. Yeah. So that's really awesome. I'll let Carly know probably tomorrow kind of where we're at. Let's see here. I sit in the background for this one in case Bronze and Big B need help. They're pros though. Thank you very much. Oh, hi, Super Red Batman. Hello.
Hey.
Welcome to the show. And Mr. Nope, I saw you in there as well. Hello. And then Comic Trip says, how much did you get? 30%.
No, we don't get anything. It's all of that goes directly to the charity.
Oh, how much do you? I was misunderstanding like 30% of our goal. No, we get nothing. Although I will say, one of our donors was really awesome and actually told me to keep one of the items that they bought on the auction, which was really cool.
Nice. You got like a piece of art or two last year too, right?
Yeah, people.
The Phoenix one, right? Somebody bought that for you.
Yeah, which was sweet because I loved your art, and so now I get to own it, which is awesome. So people are extremely, extremely nice. Nope, not even 1K for snacks.
No.
Comic Tropes was a huge help.
Man.
Oh man, I almost passed out or puked at one point, man. You know, sorry.
I rewatched like probably like 80% of the stream. It's actually kind of funny because I can see like the verbal hand grenades you're throwing over your shoulder to me, like, and then I'm just volleying them back to you, and so it's pretty funny.
I got a couple comments about that, like people thought it was really fun, but by and large, everyone had really positive things to say about the stream. I actually got a couple pieces of constructive criticism, which is awesome. Constructive criticism is definitely always welcome. And it was even better. Like last year, I got actually a few just straight up negative criticisms. So we made some changes based on that. So right. In a way, it was constructive, but it is always nicer when it's worded constructively. I got some more constructive criticism this year, and I think we're going to take that to heart and kind of discuss it as kind of the team here that works for Heroes4Heroes. Massive shout outs all around, but Big B did a great job. Can't thank him enough for hosting it at his location, without which we would have been screwed. Comics Limited came up and was a big help and is continuing to be a big help with shipping. Richard Westfall, huge help running items. Keep
Or
our
if he
spreadsheet
used to
safe.
leave his post even for a moment to go like get a snack or anything. I mean,
Yeah. Yeah, it was pretty awesome to see everybody. I could tell we were all pulling hard for the cause. I mean, Comics Limited was dead on his feet. He was coming off a graveyard shift, and he still stayed, the whole day until the end.
and the Lifesaver, he went and ran and got pizza for us all, so that was awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, strong disagree, Comic Journey. Blunt force criticism doesn't really do as good a job because it comes across as too negative sometimes. But Comic Tropes, yeah, you're 100% right. Bigby's art went nuts. It went really well, as did Comic Tropes. Man, he helped raise a ton of money.
Shout out to Sleepy Reader, because he bought the Batman print set of mine and then afterwards donated on top of that.
Yeah.
He said, I don't feel like I paid enough. Here's some more.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Hey, Swaggle House in the chat. What is up, Swag? How you doing? Never criticize another man's blunt. That's right.
Another man's rhubarb.
Unless it comes around to you and it's all sticky, then that's no good. So basically here's kind of where we're at. And this is the update I really wanted to make sure we get out for people. This is the big announcement. We went for about 11 and a half hours or so on the stream, and we were keeping up a pretty good pace. I feel like, unfortunately, we kept the model that we've used in the past that I know, like other events, like say Comics Curing Cancer and other really good online auctions on YouTube use, where we don't want anybody sniping at the end. So we kind of let it go down to the last few people. Unfortunately, in some of those cases, some of that went on for a little bit, and it did kind of drag and sometimes, but I think, as far as like the timer, we were on it. We were trying to get things moving as quickly as possible. We had so many items donated that it just, even at a breakneck kind of speed compared to what we did last year, it was just not possible to get it all done in one day. So we have a really good chunk of change of items left over. And we have been kind of internally discussing what we're going to do about where the timing of this event is. And I've had this conversation for like a year with several people involved with Heroes4Heroes. The timing of it is it's great that we're doing it around Veterans Day. It's not so great because we are just a few weeks after the massive, amazing effort that the guys over at Comics Curing Cancer do, and the whole community rallies behind them. That makes it really tough because I know a lot of people's wallets are still hurting. A lot of people donated items for that just recently, so it's hard for them to kind of dig deep and give any more. That's not the only thing, though. It's right before the holidays. People are starting to think about the holiday season. It's kind of a rough time of year. So something we've talked about for a while is moving the event. And to me, the most logical place of the year to move it to is near Memorial Day, which isn't ideal to celebrate veterans. Obviously Memorial Day is a very important day for a lot of people in the service, in services, because of honoring those that have passed away. But at the same time, I think there's a lot of people where that's on their minds. Veterans are on their minds. And it is kind of a time that I think is uniquely situated away from other events. Another person pointed out that there was actually Comic Art Fans Live Expo was going on all weekend, which is a huge original art live auction that takes place. So there's a lot of things that we had working against us, and we still had a great turnout and still made our goal. So what's the announcement? Well, as I just kind of alluded to, based on the feedback from the team, based on the feedback from the community that I've talked to so far, I think we're going to do something pretty crazy here and try to move this event to May next year. So that's the timetable for us to get ready, just shrunk in half. But here's what I'm proposing, and I do want feedback from the community on this. Actually a decent amount of items that we have left, I propose we hold on to those and put those all up for auction in the May event. That gives us a jump start on not having to seek out as many donations from people for items. And I already know there's other people when I've talked to them about that, because some of their items didn't sell. And I said, hey, do you want us to hold on to these? Do you want them back? How do you want us to handle this? And they were like, cool with us holding on to it till May. And they even said, hey, we'll get you more stuff in between now and then. So I know that we can do this. People go on vacation. There's literally no perfect time.
Right.
You can pick any time of the year and people will have stuff going on.
We don't necessarily have to do it right on Memorial Day either. It can be around.
Could be a weekend before, maybe.
Yeah.
I thought the weekend before kind of made sense because we can say it's kind of the lead up to Memorial Day, and maybe we could run some like online slow auctions like on Instagram or something like that end on Memorial Day or something. Right. So we kind of had like some plans in place for that. There is literally no perfect timing. Then people will say, oh, that's, could be spring break. Yeah. I mean, and if we do it in the middle of summer, then people are off on vacation. If we do it near Christmas time, people are spending money on Christmas presents. The only other time that might make sense would be like tax season, but that's a really tight window. So it's stuff we'll to continue to explore, but I think this is the right move for now. Everyone else seems to agree that's involved with the project. So we're going to do that going forward, and we're always open to feedback from the community, 100%. And
I think it might make sense. I mean, I'm just spitballing. We haven't talked about this, but to do like some ancillary like lead up stuff too. It doesn't necessarily even need to be right around the same window. We can just do like a pop up, thing with some of the stuff that we have left and do some sketching, and it might be fun. We can always start working up slowly to adding to that total, right? So yeah,
exactly. So I'm going to discuss with Mission 22, and we're going to close out the 2024 page. For donations. It's still at least 11 days from now, so there's still at least some time to still donate. We have, I would say, roughly 25% of the items left is my guess.
I would say maybe like 40 items left, maybe.
Well, yeah, but I mean that's kind of
ballpark
meaningless to some people because they don't know exactly what those things are. I would say about a quarter of the items we have left still. Most of the big stuff ran. I mean, that's the truth of the matter. Like the Mark Bagley sketch that people were excited about, the Chip Zdarsky sketch, the like the Action Comics from the Golden Age, like the first appearance of Venom in ASM 299, the 4 out of the 5 first appearance of Rogue. A lot of that big stuff ran.
The comic trope sketch.
Yeah, the comic. Oh man, all the comic tropes are big stuff. Yeah. So this is kind of the plan going forward because we're already hit our goal. It gives us a jump start and it moves us. I think it's what it's going to do is it's going to put us up in a position where we can do more for the community of veterans every year after this, because whatever year we do switch over to May, if we decided to do that, for example, it's going to either be a quicker turnaround or a lot longer between events because of where it falls in the year versus being in November. So it just makes sense to us. I think that's going to be really the best thing for the event going forward. And at the end of the day, if we're already hitting our goal and we can raise even more money on subsequent Heroes for Heroes, I'm in favor of that. The point being that I want to leave everybody with is clearly more people know about this event now. Oh, by the way, I guess I should say the other thing is the other fear I have is that if we tried to just sell some of that stuff right now, we already did our big like marketing and kind of promotion push for that date. So like it's pretty hard to get everybody in the community to know that we're doing another one coming up. Kind of on almost feels like more spur of the moment because we had that advertised for a while. But the point is that everybody in the community is kind of at least aware that we're doing this every year. More people are interested, more people are donating. We're getting more people kind of just promoting the posts and that kind of stuff too. So I'm just happy with that because as long as it's gaining momentum and not slowing down or starting to fall, I'm happy.
Obviously, it was doing pretty good. If we were live, it's the longest live stream I've ever been involved.
Yeah, and I would have kept going probably to everybody else's.
I was there with you. I was down for this. For the team, whatever we needed to do.
Yeah, we could just tell when we went from having like maybe 60 people to having like regularly like 15 to 18. And some of those people were like, "Hey, you got to go to bed." Like we're done. We're tapped out. Yes, I think that's the right move, and I think that it kind of gives us enough time to collect some more stuff. There's actually several artists, for example, that I didn't. Their scheduling was too tight. I think if I say, hey, guess what? We're moving up next year. So you got 6 months now to get this done. I think we could get them involved. And I know they wanted to be involved in this round of items. And then, hopefully we can kind of get people continually deciding to contribute. Like You're Next, for example, continually has contributed now. And there's several people that have contributed every year that we've done this. And that's just awesome.
Yeah.
Hell yeah. Absolutely.
I think
Well,
the funnest part for me was when people were just like, "Hey, do you have any Dave Stevens?" And I'm like, "Ah, what the hell?" I'll just reach over here because we're at my place. I'm just like, "Oh, yeah, we do."
yeah, and that was beautiful. Like we did a couple stackers with like some of your Transformers books and some of your horror books. You brought some Bronze Age horror. Big B has a eclectic collection, and it's I guess the only knock I can say is it's not organized, so it's kind of hard for you to like go grab exactly what you want, right? But other than that, I mean, it's you were awesome in pulling that kind of stuff out and sketching, and that's part of it too, actually. So maybe not 48 hours straight, because I don't know, people either may love or hate seeing me at 48 hours straight. But get Red Bull for a sponsor. But I will say that the idea to me of doing like a couple smaller events leading up to the big event and kind of making the big event more focused is appealing. But that's something we'll play around with. The community art stream that John's Comics with Kids hosted last Saturday was amazing, and Big B was a huge part of that. So congratulations to them too.
And I think John said he was down to be a part of things next year. So that's cool.
Yeah, we've got a lot of people out there that are willing to help, and that's what keeps us. I mean, first of all, there's so many nice messages I get from veterans that are thanking me for doing this, and they want to support this. And I said it a few times on the stream on Saturday. It's that kind of feedback that, at least for me, and I'm sure for the rest of the people that were involved this year, that's what keeps me excited, because it tells me that, hey, we're on the right track. If veterans are happy that we're doing this, they like the cause of Mission 22, they like what we're in, and they're so sincere in how they're sharing that. So that's awesome.
Yeah.
And I didn't shout out Awesome Sauce Radio. I do see you in there. Thanks for your support, and appreciate you. Yeah, the idea of doing one in the summertime and one during the holidays, maybe like February, like I was talking about for tax season, and then maybe one in summer. That's possible too. But I think getting us on this cadence of doing one like late spring, early summer is probably the right move. And then it kind of gives us some flexibility to open up a second one if we need to.
Yeah, we floated that idea. Well, and we're not putting anything set in stone either. I mean, things could change where we do evolve to having two in a year or something, but
yeah. And then what X is saying is a good point too, right before con season. The only the drawback is con season's nice for going and talking to artists too and getting them involved and
we'll have a 1 year lead up.
Yeah. So I guess this year, this coming year, I'm currently expecting our goal, if this is right now the plan, unless something crazy changes, I'm currently expecting to kind of set a slightly smaller goal, and then the next year have a bigger goal than we had this year. That's kind of like my expectation. I think it's gonna be better for everybody.
We're not limiting ourselves, but if we blow through that.
Swag, actually, you'd probably be a great guy to help with that. Maybe you could work up like a chart for us, like a matrix or an indices of the best times of the year to host a live auction event. I think that would really, and in fact, I could just see the video now. You could just be, pointing it out for us and be like, this is the ideal time for Heroes4Heroes on the index. I would love to see that.
A little pointer stick right here. Lab coat on and everything.
I think it'd be great. But by and large, the point that I think we want to leave people with is this takes everybody. It takes the veterans we're doing this for, which obviously is the number one priority. It takes Mission 22, who are supporting those veterans. It takes the people that donated items. It takes the team that helped me do this year, like boots on the ground. And it takes you, the community, for liking, watching, commenting, sharing, bidding, winning items, being patient with us as we go now move into the process of having to pack up these things and ship them out to you, which was not going to be a super easy feat. I feel a lot better having Comics Limited on board doing that this year, helping me out with some of it. It was overwhelming last year, but we do have more stuff this year, so kind of balances out.
Oh yeah, Richard was saying we need some sanity. That's what he didn't mean vanity, but sanity.
Oh, yeah. I was like, vanity. I don't think we need any more of that. Sanity. Yeah, sanity. We could always use more sanity. I actually hear
some cool stuff.
I hear sanity might be shipping out soon. Oh, sweet.
We might have to have Mickey on, and thank you, Super Red Batman. That's awesome.
Yeah, I can't wait to get my copies.
Yeah, we might have to have Mickey on to talk about that, promote it.
Yep. So we are going to be joined by our guest here pretty soon. You're next, and then we're going to tackle the news after we get a chance to talk to her for a little bit. We do have some Young Avengers related news, some Red Hulk news, some CGC stuff. Of course, because it's a Monday, we got to talk about CGC. It's been a week, right? It's actually news from a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, but there's been some ripple effects to that too. I heard, so we'll have to talk about that.
Yeah, lots of fun stuff to talk about there. Yep, and thanks for Christina. You're awesome for pointing that out. You do still have 11 days left to donate. Well, Roy Thomas co-created the news, so he's always in the news.
Came up with the idea for the news.
Yeah, it was his idea. He made the news Canadian. So I guess did you message Madam? Because I noticed she's not backstage.
I'm not here. You know, some people are talking about some weather issues. I'm not sure if that may be affecting her, but I'm gonna. How about I mute and I'm gonna go try to give an Instagram call and see if I can get a hold of her. And
okay.
I'll be right back.
All right, sounds good. Okay. All right, I'm just going to remove you and tell you, whoa, that was way too big. This camera is so much more of a narrow shot than what I'm used to. Sorry about my other camera being dead, folks. So yeah, did want to say to everybody who's bearing with us on the shipping front, we do appreciate that. Where we're at currently with that, let's see. So we have all the people who are getting items shipped to them from other sellers that weren't Big B or myself or Comics Limited. Not the people that are coming directly out of the area we're in. They all have the addresses that have been supplied to them for your items. So they now can start shipping those items out to you, to a person. All those people that are remotely shipping items are covering the shipping costs for those. So those will start arriving from them. And then let's see, there's a couple payments that are still rolling in that we were trying to sort out payment issues for people with, and we're getting a couple people that did not supply their address. So we definitely want you, if you didn't send an email to me or like DM me on Instagram or Discord or something like that, please do that, because I do need your shipping information to send items out to you. And so we're just trying to make sure we've contacted everybody and we have their correct information to send them out their stuff, which is obviously extremely important. We want to make sure we have the correct information for you. In addition to that, and I'll actually call out those people in a second, just so they kind of know if they're watching that they need to do that. In addition to that, we're kind of getting the orders ready to start rolling out. We're going to start packing them up over the next couple days. And then as soon as we have any orders packed up, we contact that person and let them know, hey, this is what you're looking at for shipping. And then we'll get those out to you. So it's going to start happening a lot sooner. Thanks, Awesome Sauce. I guess I have a voice for radio is what that comment means. Okay, let's see here. So the people that I do not have shipping information from yet, let's make sure we just kind of quickly mention that. Corey Wilson, Fanboy Prime, Houdat, and Comic Viking. Two of those people for sure I know I can easily contact and get their information, so I'm not too worried about it. But Corey Wilson and Fanboy Prime, I'm not currently connected with you. So if you are watching this right now, or if anybody knows those people, maybe kind of nudge them that maybe they sent a message and I got kind of my spam filter or something. I just haven't heard from them. At least I don't remember hearing from them, and let them know. That would be very much appreciated. Let me say hi to a couple of people that jumped in here. We got actual Dracula, another person who was very instrumental and helpful in this year's Heroes4Heroes, like so many of you. So awesome to see it. And then we have Kamikaze. Dude, what's up? How's it going? Glad to see you here. Very cool, very cool. So that's kind of where we're at with Heroes4Heroes. I'm going to add my co-host back into the show here. Oh, never mind. Comic Viking just messaged me, so there we go.
I'm not reaching her. So like people said, there are some weather issues in the areas of the country. So maybe we move to the news and hopefully she can jump in when she can.
We'll 100% do that. We'll stay flexible, stay liquid over here, and move to news. So let me pull up our first article here to talk about. I guess I should add, before I do that, did you have anything else you wanted to add about Heroes4Heroes before we move on?
Did we kind of go over the whole process and everything? Like, I mean, I gotta give Richard a shout out. He drove. Does everybody know he drove all the way up from California?
Right.
And then yeah, so he came all the way up. We went out and had breakfast at 8. Started setting everything up at about 9 a.m. and we got going at noon and rock and roll. And it was awesome. But then about, what was it, about 8 o'clock, we all realized we hadn't eaten since breakfast.
Yeah.
It was all like, whoa, I'm feeling a little lightheaded. But it was really, really good. And very much just super cool to have like the sense of camaraderie with all the people who were there and everybody who was a part of the show, being in there and bidding. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and just, yeah, can't shout people out enough. Well, I mean, we don't normally have guests on the show as it is, so we can roll without it.
Yeah, we can.
So yeah, huge shout out to Richard, the guy's a champion. And they're, amongst a lot of others too. So we appreciate all that. So here's kind of the news I was talking about with Young Avengers. People were asking about that. So previously, there were some reports from CB Cebulski that there were going to be some shakeups on the Young Avengers team. The interesting thing about that is Tom Brevoort does this newsletter, and he actually sort of countermanded what Cebulski said. I guess if Cebulski's comments were at the Osaka Comic-Con. So this is an article, by the way, from Bleeding Cool, just to give them credit for this. But Senior Vice President of Publishing and X-Men Group Editor Tom Brevoort's most recent newsletter said that he was cited as saying, this past week it was reported that months ago, CB Cebulski on stage at the Osaka Comic-Con announced Young Avengers in some form would return to Marvel Comics in 2025. But nobody picked up on it until now. People found the video. This news has me so excited. I know you're in the X office now, but given your history with the team, have you any involvement in this next iteration? Then Brevoort said, I don't really know much about what was said and what was reported in Montana, but I can tell you that whatever it was, it's been wildly misinterpreted and exaggerated. While the characters will continue to show up where relevant, Patriot is going to play a part in the upcoming Sam Wilson Captain America project, and Wiccan and Hulkling are still floating around the periphery of a bunch of space stuff. There isn't any plan at the moment for a new Young Avengers series. Now, that could change at any time, assuming that CB and Will Moss and the Avengers editorial office feel that they've got a creator or a story or a moment where doing such a thing could be successful, but so far it's not in any of the plans that I've heard. Sorry. Very interesting that you have kind of this two people in the Marvel office who are very high up in the pecking order saying this is happening, this isn't happening. And I thought this was interesting because Comic Tropes and was talking about this on a stream. I think the one right before he guest starred on ours, and then we kind of talked about it a little bit as well in the chat with everybody, kind of talking about what an MCU Young Avengers team could look like. And then this news came out, so it was kind of a funny timing on that. Right. Because you have a lot of Young Avengers kind of floating around in the MCU in one form or another, and so it's kind of like, oh, hey, maybe this is a sign that they're trying to keep Young Avengers in everybody's minds because they will do something with that,
right?
And maybe that is the plan. But
somebody's got a wire crossed somewhere, right?
Yeah, 100%. I just think it's hilarious because I mean, CB has kind of a infamous reputation, I guess we'll say, is probably the best way to put it at Marvel as it is. And so I think this makes it a little bit of an interesting I guess internal conflict is the best way to put it between everybody. Right. So did Lorena drop in and I missed her? Sorry about that. And then we do have Garfwong in the chat as well. I just want to make sure I try to say hi to everybody as they pop in, but sometimes I miss you. So, yeah, basically just a pretty interesting story. I don't really know what to make of this. I don't think there's been any updates on this. Let's see if they updated this article. Usually they're pretty good about that, but nope. Oh, I appreciate that, Christina. Thank you very much.
Yeah, it seems like they're just wanting to quash a rumor, I guess. I mean, some inaccuracy, because the more steam, I guess, behind that, people are like, well, where is it? When's it coming? And
that makes sense, Jay. Thank you. I feel like an idiot now. I've seen both names in chat. I feel like, but maybe I'm misremembering that. It was a long weekend. Yeah, I really kind of enjoy the Young Avengers, and I don't know. At some point, do you still call them the Young Avengers, or they become a new team or something like that? But
middle-aged Avengers.
Hey, CJ Design in the house. What's up? Another contributor for. Oops, it already moved. Another contributor for Heroes4Heroes. What's up? Thanks for coming in. And a round guy too. We got another person who was here for Heroes4Heroes. Awesome.
Those guys were
awesome.
That
blade cover was awesome.
That blade cover was sweet.
Yeah, I like that. Hey, CJ, I don't know if you saw us talking about that in the chat, and if I missed a response, I'm sorry. Was that Deacon Frost in the back of the blade cover, or was it just it was a different vampire or somebody? Because I was curious. It was really cool. I liked it.
It did kind of look like Deacon. So, I mean,
I thought it was supposed to be, but I didn't want to get it wrong. Let's see here. I think this is kind of the elephant in the room topic we need to talk about. Everybody hold on to your butts, as Samuel Jackson would say in Jurassic Park. Movie version Deacon. Perfect. Okay.
Yeah. Nice.
So, folks, it's that time of the show where we get to talk about CGC and another controversy. A lot of people have reported on this. This is not fresh news, but I thought we should comment on it real fast because we haven't. Swagglehos did a really good job. He was in here earlier. So, Mickey, if you're still around, killer job on reporting on this. I know Beyond Wednesdays talked about it on their show. Definitely a lot of people have covered this already. The short piece for I don't know, for whatever reason, one element of this kind of captured the headlines, I feel like, but the bigger picture here is that CGC laid off a bunch of employees. One of those people laid off, this is the story that people are kind of like latching onto, is that the forum moderator for the CGC forums, who goes by the name CGC Mike, was one of those people laid off. So there's a is that better? That's better. There's a whole thread that got started saying by this person right here, Shy Pink Blue. I just got a call from Mike who asked me to post because the CGC Mike account has been disabled. He was told just now that CGC is having some personnel layoffs, and his item was one of the ones that has been cut as of today. He doesn't know how many other people are involved, but he was not the only cut. Kind of a shock. I don't have much other information. So this thread has been going on for a while. It's actually at 47 pages. I haven't checked it in a moment. But people are definitely affected by this. And it's funny because CGC Mike has been kind of a lightning rod for some of the CGC controversies because they don't often comment widely on a lot of those controversies, but he has to interact with them on the forums. So you could almost call him like scapegoat Mike in some ways, or you could paint him as a villain if you wanted to. But most people really liked Mike. That's the overall impression you see if you're reading through these posts. And that's kind of always been my take, is that even if he's reporting bad news, I feel like he was just kind of reporting, hey, this is the decision that they made. I don't think he was doing a bad job on any of those fronts that I ever personally witnessed. But I have heard some people that were critical of him in the time going since then. So I think it's interesting to see that CGC would lay off one of those few people that is public facing, that is putting out comments out there in their board. This is why you're a CBCS guy. Yeah. CJ Design says Mike was a great guy. Usually the only one on the forums to do the quarterly grading contest. Around 200 people enter. Got third once last year. Oh, that's cool. That's right on. That's awesome. Richard says, I hope they laid off their quality control team and PR team because those guys are terrible. Yeah, that would probably improve their quality control and PR. I think that's a really good point, Richard. Round Guy says the only CGC controversy is why we keep going back to them after multiple times. And that's kind of where I'm at with some of this too. That's I've kind of stated a few times that I'm not really down with CGC anymore as far as my personal submissions. Like I did do one submission earlier this year. It was kind of right before the whole Bendgate thing. If you're not familiar, there was a lot of slabs that were coming back with a kind of a banana shape. A lot of people called it kind of bend because of apparently because of a slightly short inner well which goes inside the outer case of the plastic slab that was causing the book to kind of flex inside the inner well, and those flexings were often causing creases. That's kind of their most recent one, right? That's the kind of big controversy. I did a submission right before that. Then that happened. It's like, well, I'm not going to send in books now. I don't really want that to be affecting my books. And then I'm excited about PSA. I'm not out here saying that PSA is the end all be all answer for comic book grading.
They'll have issues too. Everybody's going to have issues.
Yeah, and they could fail right out of the gate. That's totally possible. People are like, oh, their slabs are too heavy. Personally, I think that might be kind of a good thing.
Yeah, dirty. But a lot of times people equate heft. Like this is something like when I had my shop, I would put multiple backer boards in an expensive issue because it reinforced it and made it, more protected. But B, it gave it more heft. And when people hold something and it weighs more, they equate weight with value. That's a psychological thing.
Yeah, 100%. And that's also kind of one of those funny things too, because older books tend to weigh less than modern books too. So it does kind of make you wonder, but yeah, that's a good point. But yeah, the heft thing, but I'll tell you the CBCS slabs are built like a tank compared to the CGC slab. And I haven't personally handled the PSA slab, but from what I hear, even though they're not necessarily the final design as I understand it, I hear they're definitely more tank-like than even the CBCS slabs. There's this whole thing about people don't like the label, and I get it. Like for some reason, one of the biggest knocks against CBCS, you could say they lose books. You could say they weren't competitive enough. They weren't advertising enough. You could say all these things. I'll tell you the number one reason that CBCS was losing money was their label. People wanted the CGC label. I mean, if you think that's surprising, think about how we're in a community that collects hot covers and cool covers. Like people are, they're interested in attractive design in comic books.
Yeah, it's all about the glitz and glam, right?
Which is why Power Girl should be on every label. That's just my DC. You could make a mint. Okay, this is important information, which I was going to comment on. I heard that he was back. I'm glad to have some information about this, CJ. Mike is back on as Comic Donna, his old account. We have this I knew about. There is a signed petition going on, and a GoFundMe started. He was blindsided. He can get on cause as a great member.
Cause.
Yeah.
Like
donated a computer to him. Okay, that's cool. That's awesome to hear that. Thanks for that information. I knew there was the petition had quite a few signatures, and that was actually started up kind of in reply to that thread I was showing. This is a great comment. Wait a second, CGC has a quality control team? Really? Are they invisible? They aren't invisible, but some of the comic books that CGC grades were invisible. Bad idea.
Yeah, and then that was so goofy where they paid them to grade to mark them as the whole spectrum, even though they weren't really damaged or anything. So
well, I mean, you just couldn't see the damage,
right?
Yeah, there's a few things, and that when I say that I've lost some faith in CGC, some people in the community will be like, "Why?" This is the funny part about collecting and comic books and all that kind of stuff. There's a portion of the segment that's like never slabs, kind of like oh my gosh, Mr. Show. Why am I blanking on his name right now? The character from Arrested Development who's a never nude. There's never slabs out there. I can't believe I'm forgetting his name right now. Oh my gosh. That's gonna kill me.
I love that character though. He's great.
Yeah. But there's a chunk of the community that would make fun of you for slabbing a book ever in the first place. There's a segment of the community that's going to be like, well, I'm only CBCS, or I'm never going to do CGC. David Cross. Oh my gosh. Thank you, Acula. Oh, geez. That was going to really piss me off if I couldn't remember that. I want to get to Kamikaze's comment real fast here. He held a PSA slab at NYCC and really liked the heft and the feel of the case. That's awesome to hear. And he also the label is much better in person.
Oh, good.
Look, a banana shape can't hurt your books. We revamped our cases, but your books can't get damaged, i.e. we don't want to admit we damaged your books. Yeah, that whole thing, like they kind of swept the whole banana gate thing. Yeah. they swept it under a banana shaped rug.
Right. Rug made of banana leaves.
Buddy, so the funny thing is I didn't submit a comic book to CGC for almost 2 years. And then I kind of said, okay, you know what? I have some books where it makes sense because some of them I was going to sell. It made sense to get these books graded to sell them. And so I did it. And I got a few for the PC. Like I got my Clone Wars 1 slabbed, a couple things like that where I'm like, it makes sense to grade it because it was a 9.8, so it got a 9.8. Thank goodness I did that before the Ben gig because that would have really pissed me off. But yeah, so I kind of gave them their chance, and then that all happened, and it kind of just washed it away again. So to be clear, I'm not saying that I think PSA is the answer, but for years I was saying we needed a serious third-party competitor to CGC and CBCS. CBCS will never overtake CGC until their market value of their books goes up. That's kind of an Ouroboros, kind of a cat chasing, dog chasing its own tail kind of a thing, because the value won't go up until consumers have faith in it that those books are worth more, and so until that, it's kind of like until you build it, they won't come kind of a thing. With PSA, you have another serious competitor in the market, and it kind of, I think, will even the playing field a little bit, even if they don't immediately take over CBCS's number 2 or something like that. I do think that it will kind of put another serious grading company on the platform, in the space that gives people an option, and it could encourage another competitor to enter the space too. Kind of like what we see in the card market, which there's other card grading companies out there that might be interested in doing it. Kind of like that's where PSA kind of comes in, right? I mean, they're integrating integrating cards, other collectibles, and now comic books. So
yeah.
All showed spine ticks at near identical locations. Yeah, it's interesting. There was kind of, I feel there was almost like 2 waves of bins, because there were some that were fixable that I was seeing where people talked about when they cracked open their books, there was no actual spine tick. And then there were some later on where you were seeing that. So I wonder if it was like the severity got worse or something. I think they just got a huge bad batch as well.
I've seen people talk them out, and it just has like it didn't necessarily make a tick, but it showed where there had been a weak point in the book. You would see the spot where it would get one if it was going to have one.
But he says, now think, with PSA coming soon, you can take your books to a GameStop and then get them graded there. And then they will give you a penny for your AF-15.
Right.
Sorry, as a former GameStop store manager, because of course I was, yeah, that's just, it's hilarious to me. I would never take my comics to a GameStop. But if you could use it as like a drop-off point, like free shipping to PSA, that would be interesting. If you packed the books and then gave it to them.
Right.
Yeah. So it's just one of those things where I think that I want a competitor. I want a competitor in the space. I'm happy for PSA to be in the space, but CGC layoffs, there was a discussion I got in with a couple people on a stream where they're talking about, well, yeah, of course there's layoffs. Like, of course there is, because the comic collecting market, just look at where it's at.
Yeah.
And I do think that like there's truth to that. I also think there's truth to the fact that CGC has damaged their brand, and they have probably faced some consequences because of that. I don't think all of this, it's not like it's in a vacuum. It's not like it's only because of what they've done in the past, and it's not like it's only because of the downturn in the velocity of people wanting to grade like modern comics, for example, which that's good in a lot of ways because it's smarter for collectors not to do that. But
it can be just because of that, because now the ripple effect we're seeing is they're saying there's going to be big delays now, people getting their books. So there must have been a quantity of books that needed still coming in. And I mean, the business can't have had that much of a downturn if we're going to see a big delay from the number of people. Either that or they grossly miscalculated the number of people they needed. Well, wait, that does sound probably right.
Well, but the timeline there is interesting because the delays were already happening. A lot of it was there were delays leading up to the hurricane, and then there were delays, both I'm sure delays shipping books to CGC, and then a bunch probably arrived at once, and then they probably had to kind of go through everything. I know they were shut down for maybe just a day, which they've kind of done before, but it is one of those things where the delays were starting to creep up. I'm sure this accelerated that, of course. You can't have less people and get more work done. Although it is worth pointing out that on Swag's video, which I highly recommend checking out, one of the top comments when I looked at his video originally was from somebody who claimed to work at CGC, and they did seem to have either a really good made-up story or inside information. And they were talking about how quotas were getting insane for what people had to get graded too. And so a lot of people at CGC are unhappy. Kind of adds up. And he was also lamenting that a lot of people they were hiring didn't even know how to handle comic books or weren't familiar with comic books, which is both surprising and not surprising at the same time for some reason.
Yeah, it's a double-edged sword, because if you have people who are collectors and everything else, then they're probably more likely to be a little sticky fingers, maybe,
Yeah.
Or you have people who don't give a rat's patoot, then they're just looking at books and going, all right, I don't see any damage to this, kind of thing. So
yeah,
I kind of see that.
This is a great comment from Ozzy too. Here he has a really good point. One of the bigger things with PSA, they have direct to eBay after it's graded. They will list it for you after it's graded. Great idea. And that is the mechanism with PSA for, what do I want to say here? For serious, I want to use the term flippers, but it's a loaded term to a lot of people. But for people that really are buying high-end comics, looking to get them graded and looking to sell them all kind of in one part of the process, you can bash those people if you want to. That's a completely separate conversation, but it's a really common thing to do with cards. It's a really common thing to do with comics, and the mechanism for doing that with PSA is much more in place.
I don't see why that's such a dirty term when we float around the phrase "have the hobby fund itself" all the time. And by saying that, you're saying you're going to flip some things that you can make a profit on. So I don't see why that's such a dirty phrase. But I would say I had somebody who is a person who does a lot of selling come down last weekend and buy a bunch of books from me. And they didn't want to have anything to do with anything slabbed. They didn't want to even look at slabbed books. And they said they are not even touching getting stuff graded anymore because it's so hard to move slabs right now.
Yeah, this is anecdotal evidence for the most part, but it does seem like the move towards raw books is definitely stronger than it was a couple years ago. I think that's safe to say. Right. I actually will point out that Swag in his video as well that I keep referencing. It's a great video. Go watch it if you're interested in this topic after this stream's over. He showed off some information from somebody that was talking about the census data. And it kind of tracked. There was some website, and I wish I could remember what it was because I would just pull it up. If anybody knows in chat, please let me know. There's a website that tracks the census data, and you can kind of get an idea of how many books are being submitted to CGC based on the census editions, right? And It was showing that the current level is now at or slightly below, I believe, where it was going into 2020. So it's basically not only back to where it was, from what I understand, and I could be slightly wrong on the numbers here, it's slightly lower than where it was at in 2020. So interesting for sure. You know, we're kind of seeing not only a reversal to normal, like a reverse to mean, but we're also possibly seeing a small decline.
Right.
And I wonder if that'll last. So,
it does seem to be the way things are going right now. People really are preferring their books raw, but
yeah. Oh, sorry. I actually should go back up here. Yes. So Buddy was just kind of following up, talking about the GameStop program. Yeah, that is definitely something they have going on. I've heard of some horror stories of that, but I don't know enough to repeat the stories. But I remember reading a couple things that just made me shake my head. I'm not a big TCG guy, so I didn't really kind of retain that information once I read it. But I read it on a couple of the forums that were talking about PSA.
Did you catch John Stout popping in?
Oh, hey, John, how's it going? I did not notice you. Chat started moving pretty fast, which is awesome, and I'm trying to get back and get caught up. Thanks for reminding me that he popped in. We love seeing John. Hey, John, I think I sent you a message on IG, which maybe you've replied to by now, but just letting you know, I did DM you on IG, brother. Thanks for your donations, and thanks for your wins.
Yeah. John was another one there through most of the show.
Yeah, exactly. I love Richard's comment here because this is what I say all the time. It's a version of what I say all the time. He says, I can forgive the mistakes. I don't forgive or forget CGC not taking accountability for their mistakes. And this is something I tell my daughter. Everyone makes mistakes. How you handle them and how you make up for them and what you learn from them is what matters. And CGC doesn't, look, at the end of the day, CGC is owned by Blackstone. Blackstone, if you do any research on Blackstone, they're just a money giant that doesn't care. And that's just how it is. What is with the 81-day delays? Yeah, there you go. Best case is CGC keeps messing up, allowing another company to rise to equal status. I kind of agree. Ideally, I don't want to see any company fail. I don't want to see any company do poorly on it. Like if CGC, CBCS, PSA, EGS, if they were all doing great, awesome. That would be amazing. And that's why I think, having more competition there probably will help out. Somebody has to put CGC's feet to the fire a little bit in terms of like, oh, if we don't shape up, we're going to lose to them, right? That's the whole idea of competition and capitalism anyway, at least in theory. So there's a lot of great chat going on. I'm actually past the point where we are streaming over on the EXP as well. It's something that I mentioned at the top of the show, but I'm well past the point where I was supposed to mention that there's some other shows going on EXP. So I do want to talk about that for a minute because it is important to me that people go check out some of those shows, because it's important to me that when you're watching those other shows that they say, hey, come check out this show. We want to be nice to our fellow shows that are streaming over on the EXP. A high tide raises all ships is kind of what I was just talking about with CGC. I think it's true with EXP as well. Tomorrow night, go check out Minute to Skim It. Our producer Jay is actually on that show, as well as Kyle, my old co-host from the Devil's Advocates days, and Miss Jen. And they do take new comic books that are coming out for New Comic Book Day, and they give you quick, impressions of it. They kind of split up the slate of new releases that's coming out, and they talk about each one a little bit about whether that book is, should you read it? Should you buy it? Should you stay on it? Did they like the art? Did they like the story? And it tells me a lot. There's a lot I learned about New Comic Book Day. There's a lot of YouTubers out there that cover new comic book content, but if you want a quick version of that, like if you're the person who likes to read the Netflix summary of the movie and not go read a Reddit post or watch an entire trailer about it, you just want the quick version of like, is it worth it? This is the perfect show for you. So you can check them out tomorrow at 7 Eastern, 6 Central, 4 p.m. Pacific. So
what I think is interesting about that is like you're going to get their take, and then maybe there's one person on the panel that you really like their review, the way that their taste may be similar to yours as you start following what they say. So then you can kind of go, okay, I'm gonna like, okay, I really like the way what Jay has to say, and it falls in line with. So I'm gonna take his recommendations, so that's pretty cool.
Yeah, and it's really funny because you do have 3 seasoned comic book readers that all have very different personalities and approaches to how they read comic books too. So it is pretty interesting to kind of get each of their takes on it, just like you're saying. I always love
care for it, and somebody else will be like, I loved it, so
yeah. Contrasting Jay and Kyle's opinions is always really fun. That's my favorite thing about that. And Jen's always like really steady. She's been reading comic books and selling comic books for a very long time, so she knows what she's doing, and they do too, of course. It's just that it's a very like different approach, and I love watching it. Hey, what's up? How's it going, Bueller? Glad to see you on here. So yeah, CGC. Just talking about CGC again for those that are wondering what's going on with the show. But we are kind of talking about, hey, as usual, we're talking about what's the positive aspect of this. How could it go right? Layoffs are never fun. I've been a victim of layoffs several times in my life. It's brutal for the people that do get laid off.
Yeah.
However, most people, I feel like, come out of a layoff in a better position than they were in before. That's not universally true. It always sucks in the moment, especially when it's sudden and you don't have any warning, which that's happened to me. One time I was lucky enough to have kind of some notice that it was going to happen. But it's absolutely frustrating. And I think that for a moment, you got to talk about the real people involved. CGC Mike is one person. I know everyone's very interested in getting his job back and hearing back from the community, which to Richard's point and to Ozzy's point and to a few other people in chat, that transparency, hearing from them, that is important. But I also feel for everybody else that lost their jobs. Like, that's just rough and it sucks. And it is kind of one of those things where in a microcosm of the entire greater hobby, we do talk about the health of the hobby sometimes. And again, I'd love to see everybody succeeding and everybody doing well, because that would mean we're in a hopefully a really diverse and awesome community of comic collectors that are going to continue putting money into the system, and comic companies are continuing putting out more and more comics. But sometimes you gotta.
We're saying that a rising tide kind of thing. Hopefully, if these other companies are up and coming, like these guys that are being let go from CGC, they have somewhere else to go where it's in a similar field. So, absolutely.
Yeah. But that does make me wonder if PSA probably already had most of their staff hired, but yeah, maybe some people at CBCS and PSA, and again, maybe some of these people were just this was their entry level point in this career, and maybe they go do something else in comics. That would be awesome. Maybe like, hey, I handled enough comic books at that thing, and I wasn't really familiar with comic books. Maybe I want to go work in a comic book shop, or maybe I want to go work for a distributor, or maybe I want to go work for a publisher. That'd be awesome. So again, trying to look at the positive. Oh man, I'm sorry to hear that.
He wishes Gunn would give us what we really want.
Yeah, Richard. I wish I could give Gunn the fans what we want. Cast Sydney Sweeney
is uncanny.
Maybe from her best side. I don't know. I've said it before. I like her as a comedic actress. If there was I'm trying to think of who would be a good semi-comedic role for her. The Pro, something like that. Maybe that would be kind of fun. But yeah,
the way Amanda Conner draws Power Girl.
Yeah. I mean, but looks are always one part of it, right?
Right.
Yeah. Power Girl may be kind of an important part, but we're talking about Amanda Conner and Jimmy Palmiotti's run on Power Girl, which is one of my favorite runs on like a single character, recurring title. I love that run, and I love their work on Harley Quinn as well. I love most of their stuff, but they did a really good job on Power Girl. And one of the things that made it great is they kind of added this dimension to Power Girl where she, and to me, came out a little bit more as a little more complicated, because there was humor, there was kind of more intelligence shown off from her, and her running her company and a few other things too. It was really good. Yeah, I went there. She's probably a little too young. I was just trying to think of something comedic. Yeah. I hear you. I hear you. I know what everybody's saying. Let's just say that I was interested in seeing her as Julia Carpenter in Madam Web, because I did have a very big fondness for that character in my younger years.
That was your Spider-Woman, right?
Yeah. Yep. Exactly. I love. Yeah, Julia Carpenter is actually to me is like one of the more underrated Spider characters, but yeah, so be it. That movie didn't help.
That had those characters in it, they look great.
I didn't say hi to Figure Drawing earlier too, as another person I forgot to say hi to, but the dirty flippers thing is a loaded term. Yeah, I think it is, because the idea that anybody would say, kind of like what Big B was saying when we talked about that, the idea that anybody would say, oh, you bought a comic book to flip it. I don't think I've ever bought a comic book to flip it and not immediately put that money towards a comic book that I wanted for my personal collection. Like, so to me, it's like the difference. Like, I've made this comparison a million times. If comic book collectors that do that are dirty flippers, and this is what's going to piss some people off, so are comic book shops, because comic book shops buy cheaper comic books from people below FMV often and try to sell them at a profit. Now, I know there's a lot of risk they absorb with that as well. There's a lot more that goes into that, but that's a business. That's for profit.
There's a difference too with comic shops. There's some shops that treat people more fairly.
Oh,
and
100%.
Others that are out there just to like take advantage of folks. So,
but the same is true of flippers too, right? Like there's people out there that are cutthroat about it, and they give everybody a bad name, and there's people out there that are compassionate about it, or they're doing trades with people too, and then flipping the comic books. I mean, there's a whole spectrum there, and so again, I don't mean to vilify comic book shops when I say that, but to me, it's like the people that say like, oh, you're buying comic books to sell them, and that makes you terrible. And it's like, well, because I don't have a business license and a brick and mortar, or what's the difference? Like, where do we draw the line? To me, it's how you do the business. It's not the format of the business,
Right.
That's just me.
Yeah, so, for sure.
Yeah. Well, and it's true of the reason why I think Ozzy, and this is the crux of the problem actually, is because when it comes to collectibles, it's a lot of it's FOMO, because people see that you bought that hot new comic book and they wanted it, and so they're mad at you for buying it to sell it because they wanted it, and sometimes even they wanted to buy and sell it. So it's, in that case, it's FOMO and jealousy. That's not the only reason why, but it's something I've noticed for sure.
Right. Yeah.
Which is also, by the way, that's a valid feeling. Just be honest with yourself about your feelings.
Right.
Oh my gosh. Big B, can we make this a topic? Can we make I love this comment from Round Guy. Can we make
it great? Let's make it a topic for sure. We'll save that. All right, I'll make a note.
Yeah. Let's do that, because I agree with you, Round Guy. But I also think like everybody is allowed to have their own definition. But so I hang out on r/Marvel Legends, which is the subreddit for Marvel Legends figures. And somebody, I'm not going to call him the person out, obviously, but somebody made a post like, I just got my holy grail Marvel Legends figure, and it's a brand new figure that's like just hitting store shelves. It's the Hugh Jackman Wolverine from Deadpool and Wolverine, that version of the figure. And it was like everybody in the comments was like, like Princess Pride, like, you keep using that word and I do not think you know what it means. Like inconceivable, holy grail. Like it is definitely a term that gets overused.
Were they meaning like they've been waiting a long time for that figure to come out? Maybe.
I think they were meaning that they just loved that figure. That's what I got the impression that they were coming across as. And here's my other hot take on that. That person probably saw a million other people abuse that term grail and just said, this means I love that figure and I'm new to this hobby, and this is me saying I love this figure. So everybody giving them shit, even though I was kind of one of them. Probably I did it in a nice way though, I think.
So speaking of, like, I'm going to go completely off the rails. Speaking of something that came out that's new, that I saw, and I was like, I'm not even a statue guy. I don't really care. But that Wolverine Colossus fastball special statue.
Oh, geez, that's awesome.
Oh my God.
Was that Sideshow or who put that out?
I think it's Sideshow. Yeah, a Colossus collector just got that, and he put it up, and immediately it was like the green-eyed monster going, "Oh my God, that thing is beautiful." So, yeah, if you can't find it from Sideshow, you can find it in our IG chat in the Council of X. But
yeah,
he has some great pictures there from there. But yeah, it's a beautiful factory. Yeah, jeez, just amazing.
How cool is that? Shout out to Colossus Collector, by the way. He does it, and really everybody in that chat. We at some point, man, we should like host the Council of X people on here and do like an X conversation.
That would be fun. Hey, Super Red Batman, thanks for being here.
Yeah, have a great night. We know people have to drop out. We understand. Whew. Yeah, exactly. That's
I just had to take us off the rails there, but I was like, yeah, I mean, talking about like what he said, oh, I just got this thing that is so cool that, you know, I mean, that's pretty darn cool.
Round guy, according to, I think this is the right price, $755 according to them. Ooh, yeah, that is a lot. It's a lot of kidneys. That's
10,
all my kidneys.
10 kidneys, Round. At minimum.
17 kidneys.
You
gotta get out there. You gotta get out there and collect some kidneys.
How many kidneys?
Free advice. If you get Sydney Sweeney involved, I know she does a lot of promotional stuff on her social media. Maybe you get her to lure the people in, and that's how you get the kidneys. I think that would work.
Some ice in the bathtub, right? The whole thing.
Yeah. Oh, John, is that the trio book they're doing? I think I saw something about that on X. Let me know if that's what I'm thinking of, because those are some awesome people right there for sure, working together.
Well, I think we should show. Can we show Chris's cover that he did and stuff?
Oh yeah,
was done for.
Give me 1 minute.
Yeah.
You fill the time.
Yeah. Well, no, I just want to say, like I was honored to have been selected the combination of characters that he drew for the cover. So he did Snake Eyes and Timber versus Soundwave and Ravage with a Baroness remark on the back. So it's really cool. Went for a really good price too. I mean, got fetched quite a lot for the charity, which was awesome.
Yeah.
And it's an homage to the original Transformers miniseries issue 3, which had Spider-Man webbing around Megatron. And so yeah, it's just a beautiful cover. I have the freshest kidneys. How dare you, sir?
So yeah, and I got a couple that actually can show off one of the pieces you did too. I think that's the only one I have a picture of. But yeah, this is so kind of going back to Heroes4Heroes. Format's gonna be a little bit all over the place this week, folks. Hopefully everybody's cool with that. The guests probably had some issues, so they weren't able to get here. I'm sure we'll reschedule or work something out with her at some point if we don't hear from her by the end of the show.
I messaged her and I said, most importantly, just let us know you're okay. I've heard there's some weather issues all over the country, so no
absolutely
sweat. So
absolutely,
we will happily have her on whenever she can make it.
But this was a piece that helped out a lot for Heroes4Heroes. This is by a little known artist named I shouldn't say that, he's not at all. Chris Piers, aka Comic Tropes, did this piece. This is an homage to Transformers #3 from the Marvel run. I think it's really cool because on the stream where he drew this, somebody said, he was like, who drew the original to that? And he kind of was asking, and people were like, Zach, and one person was like Mark Texera, and he's like, no, I don't think so. And I was like, oh, that's kind of interesting because I didn't think it was Mark Texera. I thought it was like I can't remember who I thought it was somebody else at the time. And so I went and looked it up, and there was conflicting reports, and that all, the data analyst in me, I was like, I'm looking at places I trust usually to find out like content creator info for who did a book, and they're all kind of conflicting each other. And turns out Mark Texeira was the artist on Transformers 3. He actually, it wasn't credited correctly when the book came out. People thought for years it was Mike Zeck, and Bob Budiansky, who was the writer on Transformers and kind of one of the people who created most of the profiles of most of the Transformers, like over 200 of them. He's kind of a legend in the Transformers we know today kind of universe. He pointed out on Twitter in like 2022, I think, or something like that, that it was actually Mark Texeira who had done the cover for issues 3 and 4, which is really cool. I never knew that, and because it's definitely different. If you look at the cover, it's the famous like black suit Spider-Man swinging on in front of, is it Optimus?
Megatron.
It's Megatron. Okay, yeah. I can just picture Spider-Man right now for some reason. So that was Mark Texeira. I thought that was really cool. So Chris decided he wanted to help us out by doing a sketch cover, and so he said, "Hey, why don't you talk to your viewers?" Put up a poll or something and say, hey, which combination of a G.I. Joe and a Transformer do you want to see on a sketch cover? And so we reached out to the community, got some really good suggestions from the Heroes4Heroes planning group and some fans I know that are fans of G.I. Joe and Transformers. And one really awesome suggestion, amongst others, was from what did I miss here?
Oh, they were asking about
yeah. I'll show it. Yeah. 100%. Was from our very own Bigby. So do you want to tell us what the suggestion was, Bigby?
So my suggestion was Snake Eyes and Timber versus Soundwave and Ravage.
Yeah, and so originally Chris said 2 characters, so I kind of when I put that poll out there, I threw that one in because I thought it was awesome, and it won by a landslide. So I said, hey Chris, if you're not cool doing this, I totally understand, and he thought it was a cool idea. And then this is actually what he did is he did the Ravage and Timber on the back, and then Preston, I think it was, during his stream where he was drawing it, said, hey, can you throw a Baroness remark on the back? And so he didn't have a lot of time, but he kind of threw that on the back. He did a great job doing this whole wraparound sketch cover. Really cool. I'm glad that he did. Yeah. It's so awesome.
It came out awesome.
Yeah. He did a great job.
Chris, if you're watching or if you're watching the replay, I think that's amazing. It just came out so good.
And then since I'm here, I just want to show the other piece that he did, which he threw this one in there, and I actually think this was insane.
Yeah.
So Chris is a really good artist, folks. If you're not familiar with his art, I've got it's out of frame, but I've got a Baroness he did up there that I'm gonna treasure forever. He did it for Heroes4Heroes last year, but this is a Rogue and Gambit he did. Just killed it on this one, and this one went for a bit too on the stream. So all that going to charity. Shout out to him.
For sure.
And then, they wanted to see the which piece?
X-23 versus Man-Thing.
Oh, for sure. That one is in a different folder. Your princess is in another castle. Hang on one second.
Yeah, so I did early on. I did a quick with Sharpie Batman, the animated series when we did that one. I didn't get a picture of that one, and then the majority of the stream I was drawing on this one, and then we also did a Wolverine quick Sharpie one at the end. So, but
I'm getting it loaded up. Give me 1 second.
Yeah, no.
Not full screen. I can't see anything now other than X-23's finest assets.
Yeah, Chris kept zooming in on the certain parts of it when he showed off.
I think I credit that for part of the reason for why it went for as much as it did, by the way.
So shout out to Travis. He's going to be inking it and coloring it, or doing a separate. He's going to take it, light table it, do a ink and color. So Barbarian Kung Fu is going to get the pencils and then a separate inked and colored piece as well. So.
Oh yeah, and then Jay Smooth has a good point there. The winner, Jay Smooth, requested a second little remark on there, and assuming Jay Smooth is cool with it, when that's finished, I'll get a picture from Chris and I'll show it off. Assuming you're cool with that, I assume you are, but I want to make sure, and we'll show that off when it's all finished up too.
For sure.
But yeah, Bigby, guys, is a very talented artist. He just nailed it out of the park with this. We kicked it, hit it out of the park with this one. That's the correct metaphor for sports ball. Oh, hey, Round Guy, which character did I do for you last year? Because yeah, if you were part of the first wave of people that got their shipments sent out from the first auction, I did like a quick backer board sketch for everybody. So I'm curious who you got. I did do a man thing, so I'm scared. You mean Bigby's man thing, I assume? But yeah, he did a great job here. So, and then yeah, like you said, Comics Limited is going to go ahead and color.
And YouTube flagged it for questionable content. They don't think she's wearing pants either, apparently.
Well, we did say a lot of things in this
review.
Oh, the Bigby man thing, cool. Yeah, because I know I did maybe about 15 or 20 sketches last year. So yeah, you killed it on that, man. And then I don't should we show Madams without her here, or should we wait until we get her on?
You want to wait and
wait.
Maybe show the one that she's changed from the one that she's doing the homage. Maybe show the one she's doing the homage of, but don't show the homage. So say like, because originally she was doing that Scarlet Witch Vision cover, and she decided she was going to switch to an homage of the Spectre Madame Xanadu cover.
So you're saying show the Spectre original cover?
Spectre. Yeah, show the actual Spectre cover.
Yeah, just make sure I heard you right or understood you correctly. So, and this was on the previous week. We did a stream on John's Comics with Kids, and originally it was going to be the Adi Granov Vision Scarlet Witch cover, and she started blocking it out and was getting it started on a sketch cover, and had to leave the stream a little early, which is totally fine, of course. And then she kind of switched it up to an homage to this cover that she'll be working on, right?
Yeah, Charles Vess. That's a beautiful cover.
Yeah, it's gorgeous.
And thank you guys for the. I'm not ignoring. Thank you for the comments on the man thing. I appreciate your compliments.
Bigby draws a fine man thing.
Bronze likes the way I draw a woman thing. So.
The joke I was about to make is that you draw a fine anything you want to draw. I've always been impressed with your artwork, man. It was a nice heat. Oh no, it's all good. It's all good. I just was curious. Yeah. So very cool stuff. And then yeah, I guess I don't have your Batman, unfortunately, to show off either.
I didn't take a picture. Heat of the moment.
I mean, it's in a stack here, but if I go start rummaging through the stack, I'm gonna get post-it notes all mixed up.
I don't want to mess up the orders. That's all fine.
But I will. My point is, I guess I will get a picture of it before it goes out. Okay. So we'll definitely have a good picture of it.
There you go.
Let's talk about some more news real fast. We were just talking about some G.I. Joe stuff.
For sure.
This is interesting to me. So this also comes to us from Bleeding Cool. There's a movie screening variant that I never knew about this of G.I. Joe 1. I'll just go down and show you the actual art here. So this is the movie screening variant. Like they do this all the time for movies where they'll have like a free comic book they'll hand out to the audience, like opening weekend or whatever.
But was this is a Skybound book, right? Is this just a variant cover that has the movie cover?
Oh gosh, I totally misread this article when I sent it to you. You're right.
I thought it was originally when you sent it to me. I was like, "What? They came out? I never knew this came out." Then I started looking
at it. And then I looked at the Baroness thing there, and I'm like, "Yeah, that's her new costume, of course." But yeah, so they had a G.I. Joe the movie screening. Writer Josh Williamson was signing copies. The Tony Fleece exclusive here. And this was given away at a Q&A at City Walk from the Things from Another World location there, which, by the way, Bigby and I both have been in and around the Portland area for a while. It always confuses me when I hear about Things from Another World in Hollywood.
Right.
because they have they have less now, but they had all the Portland locations for sale, and one of them was in kind of the Hollywood area of Portland.
Right. Yeah, but they at one point they had all the way up and down the West Coast. They had things from another world. So
Yeah. So that was kind of the last sort of frontier for them, besides the Portland locations. For those that don't know, for Things from Another World was the comic book store wing that Dark Horse acquired from a local comic book store chain owner, and they kind of, basically it was their comic book stores, although they sold everything. You could get a lot of good Dark Horse up there, of course, but
so actually the origin of that is Pegasus was a chain,
right?
And Pegasus created Dark Horse, and then and all of the Pegasus books got renamed Things from Another World. So they actually were all the stores came first, and then Dark Horse.
Oh, interesting. Okay, I guess I'd heard an apocryphal version of that. Then that's really interesting.
And then one of the brothers kept the only remaining Pegasus books, which was in Vancouver, which is the one that I went to. And
I've been there a lot. Yeah, that was the Pegasus that I think that was the only Pegasus location I ever visited. But yeah, I had just assumed that it was the other way around. That's really cool.
Yeah.
Yep, there you go.
But anyway, that book went for quite a bit, right?
Yes. To bury the lead here a little bit, it's sold on eBay for $800.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. It was a best $800 for it was a buy it now, it looks like.
I mean, it's a sweet cover. Very nostalgic.
Yeah. Very interesting. And these movie variants or screening variants or whatever. I know the last big one I can think of that was kind of a big deal was for Black Widow. There was like a photo variant cover. And there was another one for a while that was big too.
17 kidneys.
Sorry, you know what? From now on, we'll just include all high dollar amounts and what it costs in kidneys. We forget sometimes. Inflation has been a pain in the butt on kidneys too. But yeah, that's a huge sale. I feel so silly for having originally misread that. But
oh no, it's okay. I just was like, when I looked at it, I was like, wait a minute, I think this is newer. But yeah, that's still cool. Didn't the Punisher one is fairly expensive, right? The Lionsgate.
It's come down a lot. I think I've got like 4 copies of that right now, actually.
Really?
Yeah. Well, for a while it was like, I want to say like $100 book, but it's kind of down more to like the $15-$20, if it's in decent shape, kind of, still nice.
We might have to talk. If you have 4,
maybe I've sold 1 or 2 of those since then. I'm pretty sure I have 1 or 2 still around though. Because I don't have an ASM 129, so there you go. But
179 kidneys. That is
that
how that works out? I don't know.
As much as I love and appreciate that, let's not go around telling everybody that's what we did. I love it though. I love it.
Love it.
So this is kind of quick news. This comes from CBR. Red Hulk series announced ahead of the MCU debut. Kind of a lot of people in the community right now talking about Rolk coming to MCU. Harrison Ford kind of taking over the oh my gosh, the late actor whose name's escaping me right now. William Hurt.
Yep.
Who passed away unfortunately. And now in Captain America Brave New World, we have Red Hulk coming, but ahead of that, we have announcement that there's going to be a new Red Hulk series, which I have to say, I know that first series, a lot of people didn't like it. The Jeff Loeb run on Red Hulk. I actually really liked it. It was kind of a guilty pleasure read for me.
Yeah, everything's a Hulk.
Yeah, exactly. Everything's a Hulk. Still one of my favorite I mean, that was technically the Hulk series. It wasn't a Red Hulk series, but it, for all intents and purposes, it was a Red Hulk series. The setup's going to occur in Incredible Hulk 19 in this month's issue, which is also the 800th issue of Incredible Hulk. So that's really fun, cool, exciting to see that. So, boy, not to get on an even bigger tangent here, but isn't that one of those things that just gets your goat, that they don't just continue the numbering, that they have to always reboot these series? And
yeah, it's the number one sell better than anything. And yeah,
I love the comparison though when people bring that up, that manga doesn't do that and they seem to be selling okay.
Right.
But silly American comic books, and we have to continually keep redoing that. But yeah, I'm excited for this, I guess. I mean, it's
is that really, even though like an 800th issue of Hulk? I mean, it's not the same character. It's Red Hulk.
Oh no, but Incredible Hulk 19 this month is the 800th.
Oh, Incredible Hulk 19. Okay.
Yeah. But I bet you anything that issue, that series of Hulk, I bet you anything that's counted in the legacy numbering.
Well, that was the only Hulk series at that time, right?
Yeah, but it wasn't Bruce. So
right, that's true.
Yeah, but I mean, then again, you got plenty of examples of that where like Dick Grayson is Batman. There's lots of that kind of stuff. But
right.
Yeah, good point.
Oh yeah, good night, Ron guy. Didn't catch that you were leaving.
Oh, have a good night, man. And awesome. Any thoughts on James Gunn not going to CCXP? I hadn't heard about that actually, so feel free to post a link and we'll bring it up real fast. See if I missed anything else here. Yeah, that's what I'm inferring that from there. Scheduling conflicts, folks, including me, were hoping for a Superman teaser, but could still show up. Okay. So that pretty much tells us what we need to know. Yeah, there's very few trailer releases that I'm more nervous for than Superman. I'm sure it's going to be great because James Gunn has such a great track record, but Superman has such a loaded history with movies now. They can be great. Christopher Reeve Superman films were mostly fantastic. With one exception.
The bad ones with Christopher Reeve were good, but
yeah. Jay says, I'll try this way. Just need Rick and we could have a live action Agents of Smash. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. The James Gunn also, there was another thing that came out. This is not really like newsworthy, but James Gunn got some like flack for replying to somebody asking about what's happening with the Batman 2. Which is Matt Reeves' Batman sequel follow-up, the same universe that the Penguin's from, the Robert Pattinson Batman. Right. And Sean Gunn, James Gunn, not his brother. He could reply to it, and somebody said something like, why does James Gunn even have to be coming in here and talking about this and not letting Matt Reeves talk for himself? Like, this isn't the new DC stuff. This is the legacy stuff. And James Gunn had to kind of actually like do an actually and come in and be like, well, technically I'm Matt's boss because I'm the head of all the DCU stuff, like the co-chair.
Jeez. Some people.
Yeah, it's kind of his interactions on Twitter, which is kind of funny actually, because he actually was very controversial for something he said on Twitter at one point. But his interactions are always kind of interesting. He handles himself pretty well in those kinds of interactions, I've noticed.
Well, I think there's been some rumor that Pattinson might be the Batman for the Gunn universe. So
there has been. I don't know how I feel about that. I mean, Superman's going to set the tone. Like after watching Superman, I'll know how I feel about that. But I literally just am like, because if your Superman is if we're going back to Christopher Reeve, or if we're kind of setting this new tone, this is a very unique Batman. Kind of almost like a little bit like, I wonder how much Absolute Batman was inspired by the Batman, because it's almost, they're not the same, but there is kind of a tonal similarity there, where it feels like a bit more of a grassroots Batman instead of a normal year one Frank Miller kind of interpretation of Batman that we've been seeing for years. Granted, he's a lot more like visceral and huge and tough, and that's completely different, but there is something to it that's kind of more like on his own, kind of starting it from the ground up, a little bit more emotion, and instead of the cold calculating Bruce Wayne we've been seeing for years. So anyways, interesting.
We wanted to capitalize on like the success of the Penguin and stuff though too. So like, hey,
true.
Let's try it. We're getting some good feedback on this. People are happy with that level of the dirty Gotham crime scene, that level. So maybe, who knows?
To me, I've always loved the only thing that I have to say is when James Gunn came out with that first reveal about what the plans were, when shortly after he took over as co-chair, he came out and said, one of the things we're going to be doing is some of these things are still going to continue that you've been loving, and they're going to be under this kind of Elseworlds kind of banner, which I loved that. Like,
that's great.
So if the Batman is awesome and the Batman 2 is awesome and the Penguin is awesome, keep telling those stories, and they don't have to be connected to this greater universe. Awesome. I think audiences are okay with that, as long as you don't you don't have 2 Batman films in theaters at the same time. That would be a little, over the top probably. But yeah, because it definitely feels, I think what I was trying to say earlier is it feels a little bit more grounded versus the typical Batman we see. And to a Batman that has to share the screen with Superman, you have to have Batman could beat him with prep time version of Batman. I feel like
the super sci-fi version of Batman, not the grounded version. Yeah,
that's just my opinion, though. I mean,
I get you.
Yeah. I've got one more news story that we're going to tackle, and then we're going to try to wrap up the show after that. But before I do that, I do want to take a second to talk about, we talked about Minute to Skim It earlier, which is on tomorrow night on the EXP. I also want to mention there are a couple other great shows coming up on the EXP tomorrow. One of them is Mint Hunter Comics. James from Mint Hunter does claim sales every week on the EXP. Those are going to start at 8 Eastern, 7 Central, 5 p.m. Pacific. And he usually brings the heat. Definitely go check those out if you're looking for some good deals on comic books. Maybe you got some cool stuff at the Heroes4Heroes sale and you're looking for some stuff that goes with those characters, and you want to kind of augment your collection based on some of that stuff. Go check it out and see what he has to offer. And then you can wrap up the EXP tomorrow night with Kicking It with Henri. Henri Compen is a comic book creator who also sells comic books. He does some great claim sales as well. He's kind of like had a very diverse offering of stuff. He's very receptive to what the audience is asking for, and I definitely appreciate that. I've bought from him before, and he's done a great job sending me books. I can personally attest to the fact he's going to do good shipping and quick turnaround time and all that kind of great stuff that you want to see in a seller. His show is at 10 Eastern, 9 Central, and 7 Pacific. So definitely go check out those shows tomorrow on the EXP, and all the other shows that are up on the EXP as well. On your way to do that, because the link is for the EXP channel in the description below, on your way to do that, also go sub up my man Bigby McFly, hardworking dude who has helped make Heroes4Heroes awesome. He's half of what makes Best Coast Comics awesome as well. He also just launched some memberships on his channel not that long ago that you definitely want to get in on, and go check it out, because you might be getting some really cool stuff associated with that. And I'll let him talk about that more on his channel or here if he wants to, but definitely go check that out.
Show some things. Don't have to go into detail. I'm just gonna
let's do it. We got a couple minutes.
Yeah. Check out. There's a video detailing the details, but I'm just gonna show some things that may or may not be coming to people who sign up for membership. So we got an X-Men number one.
Dude, I'm down.
X-Men showcase.
Nice.
From lower end stuff to better. We got a full set of the Image Shadecraft series.
Right on. Big spec
One
book.
through 5. We got a beautiful copy of the J. Michael Straczynski Spider-Man Homecoming Volume 1 with J. Scott Campbell artwork on the covers.
Nice. I like Straczynski's run is one of my favorite runs on Spider-Man.
Just added to the pile. We're going to have a set of the art prints for my Batman stuff.
Nice.
So,
can personally attest to how good of quality those paper those are on.
Photo
yeah, really nice.
I'll just show the last one. See that one. Because I really like that page.
Yeah, that's a good dude. For those that don't know, this was Big B's tryout for DC Comics that he submitted.
Oh, my favorite, the panel with Commissioner Gordon too. I really love that one. But...
Well, you gotta show your Swamp Thing too.
Oh yeah, okay. And actually, I got to show at some point. I have the digitally the original page. So the pacing of this was really too fast, and so I used to be a member on Digital Webbings, and I would put my artwork up there, and I would get feedback from people on there like their pacing, your artwork's great, but your pacing's a little fast, and so I slowed it down because it was really fast. Original, trying to show too much too quickly, so that was really helpful. So for those of you, I don't know if that's still around. Digital
I don't know either.
Yeah, it used to be a really great place for people to show and talk and compare artwork, but also, so those are like lower level things. But then there's like, you could get this is gonna be first print, nice copy, high grade copy. First appearance in Maine.
You got my attention. That's a book that's on my list.
And also a couple of 9.8 slabs. So the Bryce Comics exclusive Venom cover, 25. And the Bryce Comics exclusive Spider-Boy annual.
Hell yeah.
So some really cool stuff that's going to be for membership. So whoever check out the membership levels. There's 3 levels. One is just a basic supporter, and another one's where you can get some things.
Yeah.
So there's a video on my channel about important channel update. You can find out about.
Go check it out. Go check it out, folks. I think it's going to be worth it. Yeah. So both of us are. My camera it's probably charged up by now, but I don't want to switch over. My normal camera was dead, and then Big B, I stole his webcam, which is, when I gave him a while ago because I wanted him to have a better cam, but that's a cam that requires a lot of tweaking. And I stole it and set it up on my computer, and then he had to plug it back in. So I'm sure the settings were all out of whack and oversaturated and stuff. And yeah, he can roll out with the best of them now.
I want to go 2K. I'll look like a zombie. There we go. That's fun.
There we go. But yeah, definitely go sub up to EXP and all the great content over there, and to my friend Brian over here, Big B McFly, the comic book guy.
For sure. Appreciate that very much. Thanks, Bronze. And
absolutely,
if you're not, for some reason, sub up to Bronze.
If you want to see more of this, go ahead. And there, by the way,
right?
There will be more of this too. Now that we're, right now I'm focusing on shipping for Heroes4Heroes, but that's going to be, kind of in the somewhat rear view mirror, and then move to the back burner. Definitely have some content planned that your guys are going to enjoy. I think that I will be getting out that you've been asking for. So this is the last news story I had ready to go for tonight that we talked about, or that we shared in our little private chat, I should say. This is a contentious issue for a lot of Spider-Man fans. So this report has kind of come out that Marvel doesn't want Spider-Man to ever get married again. This comes to us from Screen Rant, although this was reported by a few different places I saw. So this is also, by the way, Tom Brevoort mentioned this as well, because he was speaking at this. Where was he talking about this? I was trying to remember where there was a panel somewhere, but I can't remember. Anyways, his comment was
further down in the story. But
okay. He can get back with Mary Jane. He just can't actually tie the knot with Mary Jane. These are the ground rules going in. If you're going to work on whatever character, if you're going to do work on Daredevil, if you're going to have to deal with the fact that he's blind, and he's probably going to stay that way for a while. And Marvel's confirmed that Spider-Man can be Mary Jane's boyfriend, just not her husband. yeah, this kind of all goes back to One More Day, which is kind of the notorious, speaking of some of the stuff that happened in the Straczynski run and kind of some of the stuff that happened at the end of it because editorial, you get the One More Day, which was probably, I think it's safe to say, everybody's least favorite Spider-Man storyline, right?
Yeah, I think it was very controversial. But I do like what they had to say about the Ultimate Universe too. Like that, there's a why. Why are you doing this? Look how popular the married, happy Spider-Man and MJ with kids kind of storyline is. Why do we have to freeze him in this moment perpetually where he's always the single swinging bachelor?
Yeah, they talk about this later in the article, which I definitely recommend checking out. To me, it kind of makes sense though, because it's like you could make the argument just for the other side, which is, well, that story's already happening over there. So keep reading that if you like that story. I mean, this is kind of like in my head, I always call this the Friends problem, like the TV show, because there's the will they, won't they, Ross Rachel thing that was a big deal for a long time in Friends. This happens on all kinds of TV shows and it happens in all kinds of comic books. It's this, the whole idea that, like, if once probably the one example I can think of where it didn't go poorly is The Office with Jim and Pam. Things were pretty good after they got together, but for the most part, once you get rid of that tension, you've kind of tied that character down forever. And I know Marvel wants to keep Spider-Man in sort of that perpetual, now we're kind of at college aged, kind of a little bit towards the end of that, kind of those years, but they want to keep him young. They want to keep him free. They want to be able to.
Isn't he out of college now? He started his own business and had that whole thing going on.
Yeah. Technically, he's gotten to that point, but they're kind of. I think he's kind of, kind of maybe where like postgraduate work would kind of take place for some people. But it's one of those things that's just kind of weird to me. I kind of get it, because then you can't have fun stories where, like, you can't really play around with like a Black Cat storyline where there's some sexual tension without it bordering on potentially being inappropriate because of, an affair or something like that. And
right,
I kind of get it, but it's this thing where Marvel has figured out before how to go through the evolution of, you have a character, they get older, they can have a relationship, they can have kids, and then if you really want to, you can reset things. Comics continuity is hard. And it's probably not going to stay static forever. This mandate from Marvel, at some point, I guarantee you, will change. Because right. Marvel, I can just see it now. You'll have a second marriage issue, like you did on what is it, annual, not 16, whatever annual that is.
14,
yeah, something like that. Yeah, it might have been. I think 16 is first Monica Rambeau, maybe. I can't remember.
Oh, well, then it's after that one then.
Okay. Yeah. So maybe it's 16, but yeah.
I mean, we're starting to see where they're going with a lot of characters, because of the cinematic movie universe thing too, because like actors are going to age and everything. So we're starting to see the whole progression of like the passing of the mantle from Janet Van Dyne to her daughter, that whole type of thing. And so maybe at some point we see that it's just Miles and Peter is the older retired guy that doesn't really do the Spider-Man thing anymore, Yeah,
I mean that's alluded to in I always mix them up. Is it No Way Home? That was because Far From Home was the one where he travels to Europe. No Way Home was with the multiple Spider-Man.
Right.
They allude to Miles in No Way Home. And I think that's kind of been confirmation to me that at some point, wink, wink, nudge, nudge, it's going to happen. But I mean, obviously MCU versus comics, but I mean, I think they do tend to try to play off each other a little bit. And it is interesting.
Have you been watching, is it Comics Explained? He's doing the Avengers Aliens thing on his channel.
I haven't been watching that. I definitely can check it out. I've definitely
Oh my
seen
gosh,
his
it's
videos
so
before.
good. Like it's only coming out like every 3 months each issue.
Okay.
But the storyline looks so good.
So Comic Trip says he's like movie reboots, but he's fine with the Energon Ultimate and Absolute reboots. Yeah, comic reboots they're kind of when you can't have your cake and eat it too. That's the problem with comic books. You can't have an ongoing soap opera style story where like the X-Men, for example, like they were teenagers and in their early 20s for decades, right? Like it's just you can't have that slower progression without kind of bending the rules of reality a little bit. Like, you can't have original teenage Scott Summers in the 60s and then early 20s Scott Summer holding a cell phone, like without the suspension of reality a little bit.
Didn't they bring they brought the X-Men from the past at one point?
Yeah, the Young X
Champions or whatever.
Yep. And actually, one of the best, people know I'm a Cyclops fan. One of the best Cyclops arcs or stories or whatever is a Cyclops series that Greg Rucka wrote. I actually had him sign an issue of this at Rose City, where he goes off and has that young Cyclops that goes off and has like a spacefaring adventure with his dad, because that version of Cyclops didn't know that his dad was alive. And so he gets to find out his dad's alive and gets to go out and hang out with him as a kid, as opposed to an adult who's a little bit more bitter that he didn't, have his dad, and kind of mad that his dad was out there. This kid's more like excited that like his dad's around. I want to go be a pirate like my dad, right? It's a pretty cool story. Yeah, good point. Yeah, Uncle Aaron was in Homecoming. Great
Uncle
point.
Aaron was in Homecoming. That's true.
Yep. And the second Spider-Verse movie too, right?
Yep.
Cameo. Across the Spider-Verse. Man, those titles, the Homecoming, No Way Home, Far From Home, and then the Into the Spider-Verse, Across the Spider-Verse, they're just too similar sometimes. So
that was interesting. I was talking to the guy that was buying books. He's like, I wonder, half of them, with the whole new Ultimate or launch thing, he's like, half of me wonders if Ultimate Fantastic Four isn't going to have the second coming kind of thing, because it's the first appearance of the Maker and basically his entire origin story, right?
Yeah. Maker, the lasting legacy of the Ultimate Universe. I know Miles gets the original Ultimate Universe. Miles gets a lot of the attention, rightly so, of course. But the Maker is actually one of my more interesting things that's still around from that whole version of reality.
Marvel Zombies.
Yeah.
That's Ultimate. It's Ultimate FF.
Yeah.
So
so best comic this week, I will answer that with the best comic I read this week. Which, let's see, what was the best comic I read this week? I'm still working on Blood Hunt. I read something else this week that was really good too, but I can't pull it off the top of my head. I'm still working my way through Blood Hunt, Chris. So I'm going to go back to my opinion on that, which is the core Blood Hunt series, like the actual limited series of Blood Hunt, and the Avengers and Wolverine wasn't too bad, and that stuff is pretty cool. But the tie-ins are pretty weak. But I think I'm on Blood Hunt 4 is the last one I read, so I'm getting near the end. So
I'm going to say that Avengers. I'm going to count watching / reading on YouTube, but the Avengers Aliens was really good.
Nice. I'll be 1,000% honest. I was a little too busy doing a lot of other stuff this week to read any comic books other than
a few things going on. Right? I mean, yeah. Well, I had the art stream the weekend before, and then this weekend we had this. So
yeah, I did. Excuse me. I did read some comics to try to help me fall asleep the other night because I was too wired for the stream, and that's what I read. Read some Blood Hunt, and then did finish the Penguin, which I won't spoil because I know, for example, I know you haven't started it yet. Although I think he will
Thank
soon.
you for assisting me in being able to watch that.
Yeah, absolutely. I hooked you up. But finished up the Penguin, so that was really, 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 really damn good. The right answer was Helen of Windhorn. Damn it. I was super busy during Chris's weekly Spinner Rack show earlier. I usually pop in just to say hi and try to catch a few minutes of it. I'm gonna have to watch the whole thing on the rewind here and see what his pickups were and what he liked at the end of the show. There's another one, so check out Minute to Skim It on the EXP for the quick version of what they like, and they kind of go over most stuff that comes out every week. Chris on his second channel, Pros and Cons, does the weekly Spinner Rack, and at the end, towards the end of the show, he goes over his pickups and what he liked and what was good from that week. So, oh yeah, dude. Well, we appreciate you, Chris. So,
yeah, I can't recommend your stuff enough.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I want to do it real quick. So, we didn't mention? I think I talked to you personally, but our friend Jen actually did a live stream on her channel.
Yeah, you should. Yeah, you should tell people about that. I think you caught more of it than I did. Or
Comics Will Break Your Heart. She was back with her old co-host, and her co-host visited from the East Coast, and they did. It was really cool. I never got to really watch their show live when they were doing it live back in the day before things went awry, and so it was really cool. And they do some great suggestions of books. From the mainstream to a lot of indie stuff. So really cool. Check it out. Nice.
Yeah, absolutely. Go show them some love, show them some support. I'm sure they'll appreciate it, and I'm sure you're gonna feel good after watching it. So talk about some other great comic book content on YouTube.
It may be the last time they do a live stream for the foreseeable future, but they're talking about maybe going to doing a podcast type of thing.
That'd be cool. Yeah.
Really cool.
I think that'd be really fun to see them doing that, or to, I guess, hear them doing that.
And the ending is hilarious because they forgot to turn off the camera.
That's always good. I love that. So once again, we hope our guest was okay. Hope everything turned out okay for her.
Really hope everything's all right. Just message us and let us know. We'll be glad to have you on another time. And,
absolutely. Go. Her link is still in the description for this video, so go ahead and down there and go give her a follow on IG. She does great. We never got a chance to really talk much about her. She does great cosplay content. She does great sculptures, art, traditional 2D art, all kinds of awesome stuff. So go check out her profile. She's a really good follow, on Instagram. Her YouTube channel sometimes has some content on it, sometimes it doesn't. But go subscribe to that too. You can probably find the link on her IG, I assume. Either way, go follow her, and hopefully we'll get her on at a different point.
She's amazing. She's a seamstress, sculptor, painter, artist. This a well-rounded, creative individual.
And I'll just also a very cool person too, because I've had the pleasure of being on a couple kind of live guests, multiple guests kind of hangout streams with her a couple times, and she always seems really cool. I was actually looking forward to getting to ask her some questions because I've hung out with her on streams, but I don't really know some of the questions that didn't come up on those streams or anything like that. So I was curious to ask her a few things. So I have some questions in the back pocket for when we have her on.
We'll get her back in the lineup.
But anyways, hope she's all right. And we'll update everybody about that. And then, I think that's pretty much it for this week, unless you have anything you want to plug coming up this week specifically, Big B.
I do have plans to get that Frankenstein video out.
Timely. No, I get it, man. Things have been busy.
Yeah. So I'll be getting that out this week. So watch for that coming out probably tomorrow or the next day. I'm going to probably split it into two pieces. The convention segment and then the haul video, because the haul video is half an hour of the four of us showing up all the different things we found. So
you'll get to see the origin of a few things that appeared in Heroes4Heroes in that particular segment of the video or separate video as well. So that's kind of fun to check out too, I think, if you're into the Heroes4Heroes story. We'll be back next week, next Monday at 8 p.m. Pacific. We'll have Man and Blaster as a guest. Maybe we'll reschedule for a different time, or we'll talk about that Grail topic. That was a really fun one that came up during the chat on the show, and I think that would be really cool to talk about. We have a couple other ideas too that we can float around.
We got to do it. We also have to do a part 2 with Chris about our art inspirations.
Yeah, absolutely. And we got a few other there's other people we need to kind of circle back with that we've talked about having on before too.
For sure.
So we definitely got a lot of great stuff in the tank. Appreciate everybody hanging out with us and spending their late night Monday with us. We really always appreciate that. Or maybe you're watching on the rewind. Guess what? We appreciate that too. Those views count, and you still heard all our words, and you're still going to come back next week, and we definitely appreciate that.
And Chris, what's your catchphrase?
Me? I tell people to read comics every day. I've been really terrible at it recently, but I'm going to work on it, and you should too.
That's right.
What's yours, Big B?
I say something like share your love of comics with everyone you meet. Might lead you to hang out with cool people like we've been hanging out with tonight, like my friend Bronze.
And my friend Big B, and all our friends in the chat hanging out. We appreciate it. All those watching on the rewind, we definitely appreciate you. Catch you next week, everybody. Have a great and safe week, and we'll see you next week.
Join the party. Head over to our link tree to find all the links for everywhere the experience is all the time.